Rashiyata Parakamalam Shigurum Vaishnavam Cha Shirupam Sagrajatam Sadhanaraganatambitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shirara Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivashikam Vidamscha Om Adhyana Timaranda Shagyanajana Shlakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namah Gurava Bistam Supurakam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chinja Chinja Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govindamidam Ujwalam Bharatanam Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwaguruncha Divyat Bhagavad Prem Noe Bija Pradam Devam Divyatanam Suchandavananam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadekaparanam Vairagya Vidyam Buddhim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Varam Manditam Shivaram Madeka Sharanam Nyashishara Shidaram Sri Siddhanta Saraswati Vidito Gaudiya Gaurvadvai Bhato Manoriva Prabhata Gangane Yogara Sankirtanai Mayavada Timingilo Deragatanu Dritya Jivaniman Krishna Prema Sudabdi Gahana Sukam Pradat Prabhum Tam Bhaje Vansha Kaupatarubhyas Chakripa Sindhu Vyevaja Patitanam Bhavenibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. We're hearing from Sri Chaitanya-charitamrta by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Prabhupada. This is chapter 8. The author receives the orders of Krishna and Guru. This glass, can I get a metal glass? It's hard to grab. When it's down here, it's hard to grab it.
I know.
I'm not addicted to just using a metal glass, but I can't grab it. So, okay. Chapter 8. The author receives the orders of Krishna and Guru. The 8th chapter of Sri Chaitanya-charitamrta is summarized by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya. In this chapter, the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu are described, and it is also stated that one who commits offenses in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra does not achieve love of Godhead, even after chanting for many years. In this connection, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur warns against artificial displays of the bodily symptoms called Ashtasattvika Vikar. That is also an offense. One should seriously and sincerely continue to chant the Panchatattva names Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. All these acharyas will bestow their causeless mercy upon a devotee and gradually purify his heart. When he is actually purified, automatically he will experience ecstasy in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Previous to the composition of Sri Chaitanya-charitamrta, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur wrote a book called Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad. Only those subjects which were not discussed by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur in his Chaitanya Bhagavad have been taken by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to be depicted in Sri Chaitanya-charitamrta. In his very old age, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami went to Vrindavan, and by the order of Sri Madan Mohanji, he wrote Sri Chaitanya-charitamrta. Thus we are now able to relish its transcendental bliss. Okay, text number 1. Bande Chaitanya Devam Tam Bhagavantam Yad Ichaya Prasadam Narjate Chitram Lekarange Jatopi Ayam. I offer my respects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose desire I have become like a dancing dog, and suddenly taken to the writing of Sri Chaitanya-charitamrta, although I am a fool. Jaya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Gaurachandra, Jaya Jaya Paramananda, Jaya Nityananda. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is known as Gaura Sundar. I also offer my respectful obeisances unto Nityananda Prabhu, who is always very joyful. Jaya Jaya Dvaita Charya Kripa Moy, Jaya Jaya Gadadhar Pandita Mahashaya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Advaita Charya, who is very merciful, and also to that great personality, Sri Gadadhar Pandit, the learned scholar. Jaya Jaya Shivasadi, Jata Bhaktagan, Pranata Hoya Bandon Sabara Charan. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Srivas Thakur and all the other devotees of the Lord. I fall down to offer them respect. I worship their lotus feet. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami teaches us first to offer respect to the Panchatattva, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, Gadadhar Prabhu, and Srivas Prabhu, and other devotees. We must strictly follow the principle of offering our respects to the Panchatattva as summarized in the mantra, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. At the beginning of every function in preaching, especially before chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We must chant the Panchatattva's name and offer our respects to them. And Srila Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj is also told before chanting the Maha Mantra on one's beads, one should first chant the Panchatattva mantra.
Srila Prabhupada have us touch the head bead to our head and say the Sri Chaitanya Mahamantra, the Panchatattva mantra. I do that for some reason. I've constantly always done that. I don't remember why.
It's healthy, nothing wrong with that. That's very good. Mukha Kavitva Khore Jasabar Smarane Pangul Giri Lamge Anda Deke Taragane. I also do as you do, so when I'm chanting, first I will say Panchatattva and touch my beads. My bead back. Oh, thank you. Mukha Kavitva Kore Jasavar Smarane Pangugiri Lamge Anda Dekitaragane. By remembering the lotus feet of the Panchatattva, a dumb man can become a poet, a lame man can cross mountains, and a blind man can see the stars in the sky. In Vaishnava philosophy, there are three ways for perfection, namely In Vaishnava philosophy, there are three ways for perfection, namely sadhana siddha, perfection attained by executing devotional service according to the rules and regulations; nitya siddha, eternal perfection attained by never forgetting Krishna at any time; and kripa siddha, perfection attained by the mercy of the spiritual master or another Vaishnava. Kaviraj Goswami here stresses kripa siddha, perfection by the mercy of superior authorities. This mercy does not depend on the qualifications of a devotee. By such mercy, even if a devotee is dumb, he can speak or write to glorify the Lord splendidly. Even if lame, he can cross mountains, and even if blind, he can see the stars in the sky. So here the purport is saying this is actually the effect of kripa siddha, of the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Okay. Esab namani jay pandita saka tasabara vidyapata beka kolaha. The education cultivated by so-called learned scholars who do not believe these statements of Sri Chaitanya-charitamrta is like the tumultuous croaking of frogs. The croaking of the frogs in the rainy season resounds very loudly in the forest, with the result that snakes, hearing the croaking in the darkness, approach the frogs and swallow them. Similarly, the so-called educational vibrations of the tongues of university professors who do not have spiritual knowledge is like the croaking of frogs. Do you believe that?
Of course.
Esab namane jeva kore Krishna bhakti Krishna kripa nahi tare nahi taragati. One who does not accept the glories of the Panchatattva but still makes a show of devotional service to Krishna can never achieve the mercy of Krishna or advance to the ultimate goal. 8. Purve Jaiche Jarasandha Arirajgan Vedadharma Kore Kore Vishnura Pujan. Formerly kings like Jarasandha, the father-in-law of Krishna, strictly followed the Vedic rituals, thus worshipping Lord Vishnu. Krishna nahi mane tate daitya kore mani Chaitanya na manile taiche daitya tare jani. One who does not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of God is certainly a demon. Similarly, anyone who does not accept Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna, the same Supreme Lord, is also to be considered a demon. These are the kind of remarks I really like. Morina manile sab loka habe nash iti lagi kripardra Prabhu korila sanyas. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought, unless people accept me, they will all be destroyed. Thus the merciful Lord accepted the sannyas order. Sannyasi budye more koreve namaskar tatapi khandibe du paibe nishtar. If a person offers obeisances to me, even due to accepting me as only an ordinary sannyasi, his material distresses will diminish and he will ultimately get liberation. So, this is a very valid point for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that he wanted to rescue so many fallen souls, and he thought even if they accept him formally as a sannyasi, that would begin to open the door of their sukriti, and they would get some advancement through that. It is, however, not so much a valid point for somebody saying that this is why he wants to take sannyas, so that people will respect him and give him some audience. I do not feel that is a valid reason for taking sannyas. It's a valid reason for Mahaprabhu because he's the Supreme Lord. But, this idea that I need some respect in order to be able to preach, you have to earn that respect. Just changing your cloth is not going to give you that respect. So, if a person offers obeisances to me, even due to accepting me only as an ordinary sannyasi, his material distresses will diminish and he will ultimately get liberation. And that's true for Mahaprabhu, not true for every other person in the world. Although we'll give some, as Srila Sridhar Maharaj writes, we'll give some respect to the uniform. But what's that? What's the statement that's made? Rank is not the, do you know that statement? It's about gold.
I'm sure I've heard it, but I can't remember.
Right. About the gold and guinea stamp. Someone Googles that or something. Hena kripa moy Chaitanya nabaji jajan sarvatama oileo tare asure ganan. One who does not show respect unto this merciful Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or does not worship him, should be considered a demon. even if he is very much exalted in human society. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says in this connection, O living entities, simply engage yourself in Krishna consciousness. This is the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya preached this called Instructing the Philosophy of Krishna Consciousness in his 8 verses, or Sikshastika. And he said, Iha hoite sarva siddhi hoibe sabar. By chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one will get all perfection in life. Therefore, one who does not show him respect or cannot appreciate his mercy, despite all these merciful gestures, is an asura, or opponent of bona fide devotional service to Lord Vishnu, even though he may be very exalted in human society. The word asura refers to one who is against devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It should be noted that unless one worships Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is useless to become a devotee of Krishna. And unless one worships Krishna, it is also useless to become a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Such devotional service is to be understood to be a product of Kali Yuga. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks in this connection that atheist smartas, or worshippers of the 5 kinds of demigods, worship Lord Vishnu for a little satisfaction and material success, but have no respect for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thinking him to be one of the ordinary living entities, they discriminate between Gaurasundar and Sri Krishna. Such understanding is also demoniac and is against the conclusions of the acharyas. Such a conclusion is a product of Kali Yuga. Ateva puna kahun urdva bahuhana Chaitanya Nityananda Vanj Kutarka Chariya. Therefore I say again, lifting my arms, O fellow human beings, please worship Sri Chaitanya Nityananda without false arguments. Jadiba Tarkika Kohe Tarka Se Brahman Tarka Shastra Siddha Jay Se Savyaman. Logicians say, unless one gains understanding through logic and argument, how can one decide upon a worshipable deity? Sri Krishna Chaitanya Doya Koraha Vichar Vichar Korite Chitte Pabe Chamatkar. If you are indeed interested in logic and argument, kindly apply it to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If you do so, you will find it to be strikingly wonderful. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments in this connection that people in general, in their narrow-minded conception of life, create many different types of humanitarian activities. But the humanitarian activities inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are different. For logicians who want to accept only that which is proven through logic and argument, it is a fact that without logic and reason, there can be no question of accepting the absolute truth. Unfortunately, when such logicians take to this path without the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they remain on the platform of logic and argument and do not advance in spiritual life. However, if one is intelligent enough to apply his arguments and logic to the subtle understanding of the fundamental spiritual substance, he will be able to know that a poor fund of knowledge established on the basis of material logic cannot help one understand the absolute truth, which is beyond the reach of imperfect senses. The Mahabharata therefore says, Achintya kalu jay baba na tams tarkena yojayet. How can that which is beyond the imagination or sensory speculation of mundane creatures be approached simply by logic? Logic and arguments are very poor in spiritual strength and always imperfect when applied to spiritual understanding. By putting forward mundane logic, one frequently comes to the wrong conclusion regarding the absolute truth, and as a result of such a conclusion, one may fall down to accept a body like that of a jackal. Despite all this, those who are actually inquisitive to understand the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through logic and argument are welcome. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami addresses them. Please put Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy to your crucial test, and if you are actually a logician, you will come to the right conclusion that there is no personality more merciful than Lord Chaitanya. Let the logicians compare all the results of other humanitarian work with the merciful activities of Lord Chaitanya. If their judgment is impartial, they will understand that no other humanitarian activities can surpass those of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we'll go on. Bahu Janma Kore Jari Shravana Kirtan Tabutana Pai Krishna Pave Premadan. If one is infested with the 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, despite one's endeavor to chant the holy name for many verses, one will not get the love of Godhead that is the ultimate goal of this chanting. Gyanatas sulabha muktir bhuktir yagyari punyata sayam sarana sahasrar hari bhakti sadurlabha. By cultivating philosophical knowledge, one can understand one's spiritual position and thus be liberated. And by performing sacrifice and pious activities, one can achieve sense gratification in a higher planetary system. But the devotional service of the Lord is so rare that even by executing hundreds and thousands of such sacrifices, one cannot obtain it. Krishna jadi chute bhakte bhukti mukti diya kabu prema bhaktina dena rakena lukaya. If a devotee wants liberation or material sense gratification from the Lord, Krishna immediately delivers it. But pure devotional service he keeps hidden. Rajan patir gurur alam bhavantam yarunam daivam priya kulapati kva cha kinkarovaha ashvevam anga Bhagavan bhajatam kundo muktir dadati karichit smana bhakti yogam. The great sage Sukadeva said, "My dear Maharaj Parikshit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is always ready to help you. He is your master, guru, God, and very dear friend, and also the head of your family. Yet sometimes he agrees to act as your servant or order carrier. You are greatly fortunate because this relationship is possible only by Bhakti Yoga. The Lord can give liberation, mukti, very easily, but he does not very easily give one Bhakti Yoga because by that process he is bound to the devotee." Hena prema Sri Chaitanya Dila Yatatata Chigai Madhai Paryanta Anyara Kakata. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is freely given this love of Krishna everywhere and anywhere, even to the most fallen, such as Jagai and Madhai. What then to speak of those who are already pious and elevated? Svatantra Ishvara Prema Nigura Bandar Adi-lila Charitarina Koila Vichar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of God in himself, is fully independent. Therefore, although it is the most confidentially stored benediction, he can distribute love of Godhead to anyone and everyone without consideration. Adyapiyadeka Chaitanya Naman Jay Loy Krishna Premi Pulakashru Vivala Sehoy. Whether one is offensive or inoffensive, anyone who even now chants Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda is immediately overwhelmed with ecstasy and tears fill his eyes. Nityananda Bolaite Hoy Krishna Premodoy Aulaya Sakala Anga Ashru Gangabai. Simply by thinking of Nityananda Prabhu, one awakens his love for Krishna. Thus all his bodily limbs are agitated by ecstasy, and tears flow from his eyes like the waters of the Ganges. Krishna nam kore aparadir vichar, Krishna bolite aparadir na hoy vikar. There are offenses to be considered while chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Therefore, simply by chanting Hare Krishna, one does not become ecstatic. Tad ashma sharam hridayam batedam yad griyamanar Hare nama deyai na vikriye tata yada vikaro netre jalam tatra ruheshu harshaha. If one's heart does not change, tears do not flow from one's eyes, one's body does not shiver, and one's bodily hairs do not stand on end as one chants the Hare Krishna mantra. It should be considered, should be understood that one's heart is as hard as iron. This is due to his offenses at the lotus feet of the Lord's holy name. Ek Krishna name kore sarva papanash, primera karana bhakti korana prakash. Simply chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra without offenses vanquishes all sinful activities. Thus pure devotional service, which is the cause of love of God, it becomes manifest. Primera udaye hoy, primera vikar, Sweda kampa pulakari, gadgadashudar. When one's transcendental loving service to the Lord is actually awakened, it generates transformations in the body such as perspiration, trembling, throbbing in the heart, faltering of the voice, and tears in the eyes. Anayashe Bhavakoi Krishnara Sevan Ek Krishna Namer Fale Pai Etadan. As a result of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one makes such great advancement in spiritual life that simultaneously his material existence terminates and he receives love of God. The holy name of Krishna is so powerful that by chanting even one name, one very easily achieves these transcendental riches. Hena Krishna Nama Jari Loya Bahubar Tabu Jari Premanahe Nahi Ashudar Tabe Jani Aparad Tahate Prachur Krishna Nama Bijatahe Nakore Ankur. If one chants the exalted holy name of the Lord again and again, and yet his love for the Supreme Lord does not develop, and tears do not appear in his eyes, it is evident that because of his offenses and chanting, the seed of the holy name of Krishna does not sprout. Chaitanya Nityanande Nahi Esa Vichar Namaloite Premadena Bahe Ashrudar. But if one only chants with some slight faith the holy names of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda very quickly, one is cleansed of all offenses. Thus, as soon as one chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one feels the ecstasy of love for God. Swatantra Ishwara Prabhu Atyanta Udar Tarina Bajile Kabu Na Hoy Nishtar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the independent Supreme Personality of God, is greatly magnanimous. Unless one worships him, one can never be liberated. Ore Mudalok Shuna Chaitanya Manga Chaitanya Mahima Jate Janive Sakal. O fools, just read Sri Chaitanya Mangal, which is also called later Chaitanya Bhagavad of Vrindavan Das Thakur. O fools, just read Sri Chaitanya Mangal. By reading this book, you can understand all the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Lila Bhagavate Kohe Veda Vyas Chaitanya Lila Rabhyasa Vrindavana Das As Vedavyas has compiled all the pastimes of Lord Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam, Thakur Vrindavan Das has depicted the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Vrindavana Das Koila Chaitanya Mangal Jahara Shravanenashe Sarva Amangal. Thakur Vrindavan Das has composed Sri Chaitanya Mangal. Hearing this book annihilates all misfortune. Chaitanya Nitar Jate Janiye Mahima Jate Jani Krishna Bhakti Siddhantera Sima. By reading Sri Chaitanya Mangal, or Chaitanya Bhagavat, one can understand all the glories and truths of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda and come to the ultimate conclusion of devotional service to Lord Krishna. Bhagavate Jat Bhakti Siddhantera Sar Likijachan Ihajane Korea Udar. In Sri Chaitanya Mangal, later known as Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has given the conclusion and essence of devotional service by quoting the authoritative statements of Srimad Bhagavatam. Chaitanya Mangal Shuni Jari Pashandi Javan Seho Maha Vaishnava Hoy Tatakan. If even a great atheist hears Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, he immediately becomes a great devotee. Manushena Chitenare Aiche Grantadanya Vrindavana Das Mukhe Bhakta Sri Chaitanya. The subject matter of this book is so sublime that it appears that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is personally spoken through the writings of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. Vrindavana Das Pade Koti Namaskar Aiche Granta Kori Deho Adi-lila Samsar. I offer millions of obeisances unto the lotus feet of Vrindavan Das Thakur. No one else could write such a wonderful book for the deliverance of all fallen souls. Narayani Chaitanyara Uchishta Bhajan Taragarbe Janmila Sri Dasha Vrindavan. Narayani eternally eats the remnants of food of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur was born of her womb.
Maharaj, who were Narayani's parents? Do you remember?
Uh-huh.
Who were Narayani's parents?
What is it? Was Narayani's parents and I don't know. Let me see if it says here. Narayani eternally eats the remnants of the food of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur was born of her womb. In text 43 of the Gorgana Dipika, a book written by Kavi Karnapur, that describes all the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and who they previously were, there's the following statement regarding Narayani. Ambikaya Svasadyashi Nama Srila Kilimbika Krishno Chishtan Ravunjana Sayam Narayani Mata. When Lord Krishna was a child, he was nursed by a woman named Ambika, who had a younger sister named Kilimbika. During the time of Lord Chaitanya's incarnation, the same Kilimbika used to eat the remnants of food left by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That Kilimbika was Narayani, who was a niece of Srivas Thakur. Later on, when she grew up and married Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur was born from her womb. A devotee of Lord Sri Krishna is celebrated in terms of devotional service rendered to the Lord. Thus we know Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur as the son of Narayani. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur notes in this connection that there is no reference to his paternal ancestry because there is no need to understand it. Taraki Adbhuta Chaitanya-charitamrta Varnan Jahara Shravaneshura Koila Tribhuvan What a wonderful description he has given of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Anyone in the three worlds who hears it is purified. Ateva Bhaja Loka Chaitanya Nityananda Kandive Samsaradu Bhave Premananda. I fervently appeal to everyone to adopt the method of devotional service given by Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, and thus be freed from the miseries of material existence and ultimately achieve the loving service of the Lord. Vrindavanadass Koila Chaitanya Mangal Tahate Chaitanya-lila Varnila Sakal. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has written Sri Chaitanya Mangal and therefore described in all respects the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Sutra Kori Sadlila Korila Grantan Hache Vishtariya Tahar Koila Vivaran. He first summarized all the pastimes of the Lord and later described them vividly in detail. Chaitanya-charitamrta Nanta Apar Varnite Granta Hoila Vishtar. The pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are unlimited and unfathomable. Therefore, in describing all these pastimes, the book became voluminous. Vishtaradekya Kichu Sankocha Hoilaman Sutra Dritta Konam Lila Nakorila Barnan. He saw them to be so extensive that he later felt that some had not been properly. He saw them to be so extensive that he later felt that some had not been properly described. Nityananda Lila Varnane Hoila Abesh Chaitanya Rasesha Lila Rohila Abasesh. He ecstatically described the pastimes of Lord Nityananda, but the later pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained untold. In particular, it refers to Mahaprabhu's Sesha Lila. He didn't feel that was properly told. Vrindavan Das Thakur. Se sab lila rashunite vivaran Vrindavana Bhashi Bhaktera Udkantitaman. The devotees of Vrindavan were all very anxious to hear those pastimes. That's Sesha Lila Mahaprabhu. Vrindavane Kalpadrume Suvarna Sadan Mahayoga Pita Tahan Ratna Simhasan. In Vrindavan, in a great place of pilgrimage, underneath the desire trees is a golden throne bedecked with jewels. Tate Vasyanche Sada Brajendra Nandan Sri Govinda Devanam Sakat Madan. On that throne sits the son of Nanda Maharaj, Sri Govinda Dev, the transcendental Cupid. Rajaseva Hoy Taha Vichitra Prakar Dibya Samagri Dibya Vastra Alankar. Varieties of majestic service are rendered to Govinda there. His garments, ornaments, and paraphernalia are all transcendental. Sahasra Seva Kori Anupan Sahasra Bharane Seva Najai Barnan. In that temple of Govindaji, thousands of servitors always render service to the Lord in devotion. Even with thousands of mouths, one could not describe this service. Sevara Adyaka Sri Pandita Haridas Taha Yashya Guna Sarva Jagate Prakash. In that temple, the chief servitor was Sri Haridas Pandit. His qualities and fame are known all over the world. Sri Haridas Pandit was a disciple of Sri Ananta-acharya, who was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. Sushila, Sahishnu, Shanta, Varanya Gambhir, Madhura Vachana, Madhura Cheshta, Mahadir. He was gentle, tolerant, peaceful, magnanimous, grave, sweet in his words, and very sober in his endeavors. Sabar Samana Karta Korana Sabar Hita Kodyoya Matsarya Himsa Na Jani Tarachita. He was respectful to everyone and worked for the benefit of all. Diplomacy, envy, and jealousy were unknown to his heart. Krishnana Jai Sadarana Shadguna Panchash Se Sab Gunera Tara Sharire Nirbhas, pardon me, Krishna Rajays, Sadaran, Krishna Rajay, Sadarana, Shadguna Panchas, Sesab Gunaratara, Sharire Nibas. The 50 qualities of Lord Krishna were all present in his body. Yashyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sarvar Gunais Tatra Samasate Sura Arava Bhaktasya Kuto Mahadguna Manoratena Sati Davato Bahi. One has unflinching devotional service, and if one has one who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna, all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods are consistently manifest. However, one who has no devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no good qualifications because he is engaged by mental concoction and material existence, which is the external feature of the Lord. So one is on Mato Renas Yavato Bahi. One is situated in that position to be on the chariot of the mind, meaning mental speculation. Here it is. To one who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna, all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods are consistently manifested. However, one who has no devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no good qualifications because he is engaged by mental concoction and material existence, which is the external feature of the Lord. Pandita Gosar, Sishya, Anantacharya, Krishna Prema Moyatanu, Udara Sarva Arya. Anantacharya was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. His body was always absorbed in love of Godhead. He was magnanimous and advanced in all respects.
Who is Maharaj? Who is the disciple of Anantacharya that we just talked about?
Sri Haridas Pandit,
Haridas
the head of main priest of Govinda temple. Tahara Anantaguna Jai, Tahara Anantaguna Karu Prakash, Tarapriya Sishya Iha, Pandita Haridas. Anantacharya was a reservoir of all good qualities. No one can estimate how great he was. Pandit Haridas was his beloved disciple. Chaitanya Nityanande Tara Parama Vishwas, Chaitanya-charitamrta Tara Parama Ulas. Pandit Haridas had great faith in Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda. Therefore, he took great satisfaction in knowing about their pastimes and qualities. Vaishnavara Guna Grahina Dikaye Dosh Krishna Mano Bhakye Kore Vaishnava Santosh. He always accepted the good qualities of Vaishnavas and never found fault in them. He engaged his heart and soul only to satisfy the Vaishnavas. Nirantara Shune Teho Chaitanya Mangal Tahara Prasade Shunen Vaishnava Sakal. He always heard the reading of Sri Chaitanya Mangal, and all the other Vaishnavas used to hear it by his grace. Katai Sab Ujjvala Kore Jena Purnachandra Nija Gunam Rite Badai Vaishnavananda. Like the full moon, he illuminated the entire assembly of Vaishnavas by speaking Sri Chaitanya Mangal, and by the nectar of his qualities he increased their transcendental bliss. Teoati Kripa Kori Agya Koila More Gorangera Sesha-lila Barni Bharatari. By his causeless mercy, he ordered me to write about the last pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kashishvar Gosara Sishya Govinda Gosai Govindera Priya Sevak Tara Samanai. Govinda Gosai, the priest engaged in the service of Lord Govinda in Vrindavan, was a disciple of Kashishvar Gosai. There was no servant more dear to the Govinda deity. Yadavacharya Gosai Sri Rupera Sangi, Yadavacharya Gosai Sri Rupera Sangi, Chaitanya-charitamrta Teho Ati Borarangi. Sri Yadavacharya Gosai, a constant associate of Sri Larupa Goswami, was also very enthusiastic in hearing and chanting about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Pandita Gosai Sishya Bhugarva Gosai Gorakata Bina Ara Mukhanyanai. Bhugarva Gosai, a disciple of Pandit Gosai, was always engaged in topics regarding Lord Chaitanya, knowing nothing else. Tara Sishya Govinda Pujak Chaitanya Das Mukunda Nandana Chakravarti Premi Krishna Das. Among his disciples were Chaitanya Das, who was a priest of the Govinda deity, as well as Mukunda Nandana Chakravarti and the great devotee Krishna Das. Acharya Gosai Sishya Chakravarti Shivananda Nirabadi Tarachitte Chaitanya Nityananda. Among the disciples of Anantacharya was Shivananda Chakravarti, in whose heart Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda constantly dwelled. Arajat Vrindavane Vaishe Bhaktagan Adi-lila Shunite Sabar Hoilaman. In Vrindavan there were also many other devotees, all of whom desired to hear the last pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Mahaprabhu Sesha-lila. Moreyagya Korila Sabe Karuna Koriya Tasavara Bole Liki Nirlaja Hoya. So those devotees wanted to hear the full description of Mahaprabhu's activities in Jagannath Puri in particular. And Vrindavan Das Thakur had written very voluminously, but he had not fully developed those, the description of Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Vrindavan. So, Krishnadas Kaviraj talks that all the devotees were encouraging him to depict these pastimes. In Vrindavan there were also many other great devotees, all of whom wanted to hear the last pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Moriyagya Korila Sabe Karuna Koriya Tasavara Boliliki Nirlanja Hoya. By their mercy, all these devotees ordered me to write of the last pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because of their order only, although I am shameless, I have attempted to write this Chaitanya-charitamrta.
Maharaj, what did Vrindavan does? What like notebooks or whatever did he access? When he wrote that, do you know?
No, I don't know. But he was a disciple. Could say he even traveled with Nityananda, so he has some access.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to stop here. Anyone have a question or comment?
You said at one point that he was serving the Vaishnavas with their heart, with his heart and soul.
Pardon me? Can you speak?
At one point you said he was serving the Vaishnavas with his heart and soul.
He was serving?
With his heart and soul, the Vaishnavas. And how can we develop that if we, first of all, if maybe when you don't feel the heart to do it and you're forcing yourself to do it, how can we get past that stage of forcing ourselves to serve and to get to the stage of serving with our heart and soul in a natural, spontaneous, free flow? Well,
coming in. First of all, in order to develop that, one has to be within the association of devotees and be with them, and then naturally, out of affection for the devotees, some desire to offer them some service will naturally come in anyone's heart. You know, if you're with somebody that you love or greatly appreciate, then you'll naturally want to serve those persons, just as a mother serves her child, so to speak. One acts in the relationship of love, and then one tries to, you know, I don't feel it has to be so forced. One doesn't have to force oneself to actually have some love and appreciation for the Vaishnavas and want to offer them service. I find that's generally the natural inclination of almost every devotee. Now, they may not be so, as you're saying, they may not have such ardent desire, but that can also develop as one develops an affectionate relationship with the Vaishnavas by coming in contact with them and, you know, and by associating with them, by forming some bond of friendship, that will happen. But, you know, by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, all this will happen. In the very beginning, it says that there are different ways in which perfection can develop. One is sadhana siddha. And then next it said, sadhana siddha, you know, what was the next siddha? Go back and see that. And finally it said that everything can develop by kripa siddha. You know, that's why it says that a blind man can see the stars in the sky, laymen can cross over mountains, a dumb man can, you know, present poetry. So that was a statement, and then the explanation given was that this is an instance of kripa siddha, that by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, one develops all these qualities, you know. So this is not going to be on the basis of anything that necessarily I can do, but it will be by the mercy that comes from the Vaishnavas to me. So let's see if I find that. Those, I read that, and there was other things that stood out in my mind.
Like Vidhi, Raga, and Kripa, or no?
Yeah, it was, first was sadhana siddha, that would help by executing sadhana, one can develop perfection. But then it was saying that this doesn't happen generally, that when we're speaking about layman, you know, crossing, layman being able to cross the mountains, and a blind man see the stars, or a dumb man, meaning can't speak, can recite poetry. Let's see. And it was said, this is not sadhana siddha, and it's not coming through one sadhana. It's not coming through any other source, but through the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Let's see if we can find that statement. We'll read it. I guess
Is it Prabhupada's purports with it?
I'm sure it is, but let's see. It was one of the early things that we read, but I can't seem to. I'll just look up kripa siddha. Anyway, the emphasis is that by kripa siddha, by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, even one who's not very qualified and not even particularly diligent, one can develop perfection. So what can I say? There it's stated like that. Let's see. Krishna, I don't know. It's very extensive, but I don't see where. Krishna.
Ra, and then Pa, right? So before Krishna.
Krishna. Before Krishna, okay. But I'm not looking under the Sanskrit, I'm looking under the English index. I would still think it's before, but I don't see it. Don't mind me. Let's see if there is a verse of Sadhana Siddha. I don't know if that verse actually began in that way. But it was at the very beginning. Anyway, only by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, no other way. I don't have so much qualifications, it's not so much. I can certainly pray for the development of the desire to serve the Vaishnavas in my heart. I can pray for that. But I also can depend on the mercy of the Vaishnavas in order to be able to cultivate that. Anyway, there's so many nice things here. I really very much believe in hearing Chaitanya-charitamrta. You have some background in Bengal, right? So you can. I know this is Sadhu Bhasha, it's a little different than the Chalit Bhasha, but you can read Chaitanya-charitamrta. It's in your native language. How much benefit will you get, and how much will you develop that? Here it is. Here's. Okay. Here it is. Mukha kavitva kore jasabar smarane pangugiri lange anda dekitaragane. By remembering the lotus feet of the Panchatattva, a dumb man can become a poet, a lame man can cross mountains, and a blind man can see the stars in the sky. In Vaishnava philosophy, there are three ways for perfection, namely sadhana siddha, perfection attained by executing devotional service according to the rules and regulations; nitya siddha, eternal perfection attained by never forgetting Krishna at any time; and kripa siddha, perfection attained by the mercy of the spiritual master or another Vaishnava. Kaviraj Goswami here stresses the kripa siddha, perfection by the mercy of superior authorities. This mercy does not depend on the qualifications of a devotee, of myself. By such mercy, even if a devotee is dumb, he can speak or write to glorify the Lord splendidly. Even if lame, he can cross mountains, and even if blind, he can see the stars in the sky. So that was and then goes on to say the education cultivated by so-called learned scholars who do not believe in these statements Sri Chaitanya-charitamrta is like the tumultuous croaking of frogs. That was the next verse. So here it says, by remembering the lotus feet of the Panchatattva. So that way. And you can also take up reading the Chaitanya-charitamrta as a daily function. Read some verses, you know.
Because, you know, one of the challenges is...
What's the what?
One of the... Maybe I'll come first.
Yeah.
One of the challenges is appreciating the process when you're not so involved, or even if you are involved, it can become mechanical, the process of serving and following the 9 devotional activities, and how to really maintain the appreciation.
Well, I really feel that, and as I was saying last night, that the distinction, one of the distinctions between engaging in things mechanically and engaging in things with devotional sentiment, which is that's one of the things that was really kind of fostered and presented very beautifully in the Sri Chaitanya-Saraswat Month. That was one of the key marks of the Chaitanya-Saraswat Month, that things weren't, you know, as Guru Maharaj was speaking and Govinda Maharaj was also showing by example and by speech, that the activities were not done mechanically, that always Govinda Maharaj dealt with so much affection. And us as recipients of that affection, then we didn't approach things mechanically. We approached things on the basis of a reciprocation of affection that was given by Govinda Maharaj. So if we can develop those affectionate dealings with each other, which I don't believe it has to be so much cultivated as a separate endeavor. It will naturally develop if one comes in the association of the Vaishnavas and has a desire to be with them, then one will naturally serve them and have some. So I think a lot of it, I don't know, for instance, you live far away from here?
2 hours by train.
That's quite a distance. And do you live closer to Green Street?
Yes.
Closer to Green Street.
And now she's staying here, right? You're staying?
Yeah, I'm staying here to associate with Vaishnavas and serve them.
Oh, now you're staying here.
Well, as long as they can tolerate me, as long as I don't make offences.
Well, then that's very good. Then you've taken some practical steps to what you're talking about, developing some desire to serve and be with the Vaishnavas. Then, in their association, that will develop. But I also feel that, you know, you as a person who is Bengali, you should, you know, try to enter into the hearing and reading of Chaitanya-charitamrta. You know, that you have this great wealth that we ourselves have not gotten it. I'm reading the Bengali, but I'm not at all sure that my pronunciation of the text is proper or not. Now maybe because it's not Bengali, that's normal conversation of Bengali people, they may not, there are many words and expressions and language here that they're not using in their own conversations. They're not speaking Sadhu Bhasha. But certainly you could, you know, you're an educated person, you could draw upon language of Chaitanya-charitamrta to be able to appreciate it. I mean, it's so beautiful. Hearing Chaitanya-charitamrta is such a beautiful thing, you know, to be able to read it. And you would be able to, you know, pick up that book. I saw Govinda Maharaj do that many times. Just in the morning, open the Chaitanya-charitamrta and begin reading from it. What a nice experience, what a nice thing to be able to do. Who would not want to do that? My own feeling.
I think I'm just trying to overcome the obstacle in my mind that, how to really appreciate it as a real Leela as opposed to a fairy tale.
Well, then you should do like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, beat your mind every day 100 times with a shoe. I mean, in our darkest moments, we may be a skeptic or, say, is this true or something like that. But that's our own lack of faith, to be able to see like that. So we have to not listen to our mind. Mind is never acting as my friend. Mind is always acting as, against my own interests. Therefore, Srila Maharaj gave the example that a minor soul, as he describes it, a minor soul has come into great wealth, but because he's a minor, he's underage, like maybe Subhadra, then he cannot properly spend his wealth. So some administrators are appointed to be able to administer the wealth of that person who has inherited so much money, but is a minor soul. So he appoints as his administrators the mind and the intelligence. And they are saying that we are doing everything, everything is for him. Everything is for him. But it's not true. They are squandering the wealth. They're squandering the wealth of that person. They're saying everything is for him. But it's not at all true. They are just usurping the inheritance that the minor soul has received. So therefore Guru Maharaj says the only way to correct this situation is to take shelter and hear from a major soul. Major soul means the Acharya, the spiritual master or guide. And the Vaishnavas who are qualified. We have to be able to hear from them. Otherwise, if we just rely on the mind and our intelligence, they are not really acting within our own interest, and they are not qualified administrators of the wealth that we have inherited. We have all inherited some wealth, but it is in relationship with, our service to the Lord. And if we follow the mind and the intelligence, which are saying, oh, I'm doing everything in His name, in the Lord's name, or however you want to say it, or in your own interest, they're doing everything in your interest. But it's not true. They're misusing your property, spending your property, squandering your inheritance, and leaving you without anything. That is the risk of relying on some, false administrators, and that is your mind and intelligence. They're not properly, capable. That's what the Gita is always saying. The Gita says the mind can be the best friend and the worst enemy. I would say in material existence, the mind is definitely the worst enemy. And Srila Govinda Maharaj said, when he came to the lotus feet of Srila Maharaj, that Srila Maharaj said, can you follow me and not follow your mind? But someone can say, well, sometimes my mind gives me good instructions, but that is like a bribe. That, oh yes, yesterday I helped you, but today, now I want to do this. But it's not in my interest. Let us go out and enjoy. Let us go to the clubs and, or whatever. Let us do this. Yesterday, one is thinking, oh, yesterday I had such nice feelings and my mind was giving me so much wonderful inspiration. But it is not true. It is giving you something as a bribe to now follow the dictations, dictaments of your mind. And not at all helpful. And then the following statement, the very following statement, after talking about sadhana siddha and also nitya siddha and then kripa siddha being the more important, and mercy coming from the Vaishnavas, it says the statements of so-called scholars, is like the tumultuous croaking of frogs. So, how many of us have relied on higher education? Have you relied on that sometimes?
Yes, I still am. I'm an independent financial trader in forex and stock markets.
Yeah. But all that is like the tumultuous croaking of frogs, the statements of so-called scholars. What have the scholars ever said? They have, they've tried to dissect Gaudiya Vaishnavism, but they can only deal with lifeless subjects because they have no internal faith of their own, so they cannot approach what is beyond the range of their sensuous gaze. They can't go beyond that. They can't understand the core of anything because they don't have faith in it. Their process is just dissection, reductionism. I do not consider that to be useful. I also went through the educational system, the university and everything. One time I was studying at MIT, and I just decided, what is the end product of this? That I will take employment of somebody and then I will become purchased. And I'm not interested in that. Now, of course, I was a very foolish young boy. And I was very, kind of rebellious in my mind. But I was thinking, I don't want to be sold to somebody. So I will look for some other avenue. Then I went into liberal arts, and then ultimately I was supposed to go to I remember I was supposed to go to graduate school at Berkeley. And then when I went to graduate school at Berkeley, one of the first things they said, you have to study either German or Russian. They said, yeah, that was a question. I said, I'm an English literature major. But you have to study German or Russian. I said, well, I can already speak Spanish. I've studied Spanish for years. No, that's not valid. It has to be German or Russian. So I thought, why German or Russian if I'm in English literature? Then they said, one of the assignments, you go see if this particular book was written in the quarto or folio edition. I thought, what importance is to my life how the book was printed and how the paper was folded. I thought, what is this? So I took whatever money they gave me and I left. That was what I did. And I can't say that I constructively utilized my energy, but eventually I did meet the devotees. And when I met the devotees, I listened to what they were saying, and in particular, I heard very much like the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, one book by Prabhupada, but teachings of Lord Chaitanya is all the philosophical parts of the Chaitanya-charitamrta. It is like, in one sense, a summary of Chaitanya-charitamrta. Now, I didn't understand what was being said, but I liked it so much. I felt like just hearing it. I am being transported to another world when I heard that. And it was all basically in English, maybe some Bengali and Sanskrit, few things put in, but the translation was all in English. We weren't reading any verses. Some verses may be in there, but basically all in English. And I just felt, and I wasn't even reading it, just hearing it. I thought, this is something from another plane. This is so beautiful and so nice. Then I think that influenced me. I think it influenced me. And so like that. Now, I'm just saying that here we are in reading of Chaitanya-charitamrta, and you're asking how one can proceed in one's own spiritual life. It should be, then you read and you understand Bengali, you speak the language, then you apply your mind and intelligence to understanding the Chaitanya-charitamrta. And you can do that. It just goes on, verse after verse after verse after verse, and practically speaking, the verses, the following verses will always elucidate what the preceding verses were. And then you have some comments, and then because you speak Bengali, but you don't speak Sanskrit necessarily, then the book that was presented in the Mat was presented as a book that you can even carry around with you, and then it has a Bengali explanation of what is the Sanskrit verses. So the Bengali is not explained, although maybe you don't speak Sadhu Bhasha, but you can understand generally what is there. And that's why there's no translation into colloquial Bengali. It's just given there. But it's possible to understand that, and then the Sanskrit verses are explained in the Bengali translation of the Sanskrit. And that book was published. And now, everyone, not everyone, but so many people, they have these tablets. For $50 you can buy a tablet, or less. And you can have thousands of books in that tablet, if you so desire. You certainly could carry around in your pocket the whole Chaitanya-charitamrta. Full with all purports, explanations, and everything, if you so desire to read them. I don't always read all the purports, some of which are very extensive. And, sometimes I read it, read parts of them, sometimes I read the whole purport. But I don't always read everything because I want to continue the sequence of the verses so that, I can hear what is actually, I won't forget what is the sequence of the verses. And I feel the purports are very wonderful and can read them if one so desires, because they're like the research, like a research library. Maybe that's not correct to think like that, but if one wants to study, then one can find out all the details and so much information reading the purport. But I like to read a sequence of the verses and summarize the purports or present them. And I feel the Chaitanya-charitamrta is so nice. Read that in English, read that Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. It's a nice book.